Being a military brat myself, I'm no stranger to moving around all the time, not knowing what to expect or how to navigate starting over in a new place. That's why I'm excited to share these pros and cons of living in Orlando, Florida. Hey friends, I'm Joel Gonzalez with LPT Realty here in Orlando, and if this is your first time on the channel, go ahead and check the description section below because there is a helpful relocation guide I like to give away. Just click the link to get your free copy. So let's go ahead and get into our first pro. Now, you can't think about Central Florida, Orlando without thinking about Disney or really any of the other theme parks. So that's the first thing I want to talk to you about. So I guess it depends really who you are and how you feel about going to the parks or if you have little kids. But yeah, you have the major theme parks here. I mean, you think about Universal. So if you're a huge Harry Potter fan or if you're into Jurassic Park, yeah, Universal is pretty amazing. It tends to be a little bit more for the older crowd, although they also have a whole area of the park that's for Dr. Seuss, so it's not bad to take the little ones there as well. And then you also have SeaWorld. SeaWorld's pretty great. It's kind of like the less expensive of all the major parks, and there you get to go, there's the marine life, of course. They have, definitely many different shows. They have dolphins that you can go pet, so you can definitely, check out SeaWorld if that's something that more is along what you'd like to see. And along with that, I mean, you can't beat the fact that, yeah, you can go see the marine life and then you can just hop on a roller coaster. That's pretty great too. But again, the best thing about SeaWorld really is the price. I mean, they just tend to be a lot less expensive than the other parks, which for me personally, if I'm spending $100, I want to be there the whole day. There's a lot of pressure to just enjoy the most you can out of that $100. Now, of course, my favorite, and I can talk to you, I can make like a whole video series just about Disney. Just to give you an idea about Disney and how incredibly huge it is. I mean, it is a true world, and it's called Disney World for a reason. It has 25,000 acres. This place is big. They have a whole world there. They have, of course, they have the 4 theme parks, they have 2 water parks, but they have tons of shopping. It used to be called, it's now called Disney Springs. It used to be called Downtown Disney. So the locals around here probably refer to it still as Downtown Disney. I know me and my family, that's what we call it. But if we tell someone, hey, yeah, just go check out Downtown Disney, no one will know really what we're talking about. Might not even show up on a web search. But again, there's just a ton of things that you can do there. They have amazing dining. And then not to mention the resorts and the hotels. I mean, me and my family, sometimes for a staycation, we'll stay at one of the resorts, even though we already live here. That's how nice these hotels are. So we do enjoy a little bit of that, and I have some insider tips and secrets for what you can do to, stay at the resorts for, a lot less than the majority of people pay. So definitely drop that in the comments section. I can definitely email you if you want some of what we do here locally in order to save a couple bucks on the resorts, if that's your thing. But the best part really is the theme parks. Now, we talked a little bit about the fact that the tickets can get pretty pricey, and Disney is the most expensive ones. So what we do, and what most people that live around here in Central Florida do, and even across the state, they get annual passes. I mean, because at most, a theme park visit, just one day, one ticket, one person, can cost anywhere up to like $130, I think maybe even $140. Something that you can easily, search online and find out the price for. But we get annual passes. I mean, it's a nice little benefit of being a Florida resident. And most people from outside, if you had an annual pass, you'd have to pay like for the premium annual pass, which is very expensive. I mean, we're talking about over $1,000 a person. But not here. I mean, at least at the time of when we're recording this, an annual pass for Monday to Friday is like $400. So after a couple visits, this pays for itself. And I mean, it just kind of depends, if you have little kids. I have little ones. So I love being able to just hop in the car in 20, 30 minutes. I'm in Disney World. I'm in the Magic Kingdom. We're looking at Cinderella's castle and we're making some memories. We don't feel the pressure to be there all day. We don't feel like, this is something we have to like open the park to close to get the most out of our money, because, we can just hop in the car, be there for 2 or 3 hours, get on a couple rides, and maybe get some food, and then just watch some fireworks. I have a ton of amazing memories with my kids at the parks just doing that. And sometimes, I mean, we only get on one ride and we're just simply happy to be there on what many, and they themselves call them the most magical place on earth. So definitely a pro on my list. Maybe not for you. And honestly, if the theme parks are maybe not your thing, but you do want to be outdoors, my next pro might fit you a little bit better, and that's the natural parks. Now, this is something that I haven't truly, like, in the time I've lived here, taking a lot of advantage of, although I definitely should. There are a ton of natural parks outside. One of the ones that stands out the most and is most well known here is the Lake Eola Park. Great for running. You know, when I go down there, I always see people that are off on a run around the lake. And a lot of these people are ones that like to live downtown. You know, if you want to enjoy the city life, but still get a little bit of outdoor activity, then yeah, Lake Eola kind of is perfect for that. I mean, you can easily go out for dinner with friends and then take a stroll through the park in the evening. Now, aside from that, if you're looking for something a little bit more rugged, something a lot more outdoorsy, we do have the Ocala National Forest. It's 600 square miles of wilderness. I mean, it's just as outdoorsy as it gets. If you're a person who loves outdoors, you can probably think of more things to do there than I can tell you. Obviously, there's the hiking, you can go camping. They have plenty of cool springs that you can jump into. I believe that the average temperature, someone told me once, was like 70, 75 degrees. So on those hot summer days when you're out there, yeah, it's gonna be pretty nice to take a dip in one of those springs. I myself have gone camping there. Yes, and I can definitely tell you it is fairly rugged. There is no real, at least the ones I've seen, campsite that's set up with a grill and a place for you to pitch your tent. No, there's nothing like that. You are on the cold, hard ground. You are making your own fire pit, and hopefully you brought some kind of seating, you know, some chairs for yourself, because there's not much to sit on unless you find a log. So again, like I tell you, it is fairly rugged. If you love outdoors and camping and are worried that moving to a place like Orlando, you're not gonna find any of that, you don't have to worry. There definitely is something for you to do when it comes to things that are much more rugged and outdoorsy. So when it comes to doing things that outdoors, you don't have to just worry about the rugged or these major, like, you know, walking paths, like for example, the ones you find in Lake Eola. I mean, they also have, you know, these playgrounds that are for kids. And I mean, there's quite the range and quite a number of them that are here in Florida. I mean, we're talking about slides, swings, grilling areas, picnic tables, bike paths, and even splash pads on some of them for when it gets really hot. So again, there are a lot of things that you can do with your kids. You can drive around town, you can just check Google for local parks, and you're gonna find a ton of them. So it really does give you a lot to do here when it comes to spending time with your family outdoors. So when it comes to the economy here in Orlando, things definitely have changed. I mean, I moved here around 2006. Just a couple years later, we got hit hard with a pretty intense recession, and it affected us. It impacted us pretty heavily. So when it comes to Orlando just growing, I mean, ever since then, you can see that definitely we become a lot more diverse. We don't depend completely on tourism or hospitality anymore. Now we have a growing, you know, healthcare industry here. There are a lot of medical professionals that come into town, whether it's a small local private practice or one of the big hospitals. There are plenty of jobs to go around. I always see like they're trying to recruit. I hear it on the radio. I talk to friends who are in healthcare industry, and they know that, hey, listen, you know, right now we're always understaffed. We need more medical professionals to come into the field. We also have a pretty strong tech hub. I mean, the first things that stand up to my mind when it comes to technology are Lockheed Martin and Siemens. Plus, there are a lot of smaller companies, a lot of startups that are in the area. A lot of that has to do with the fact that UCF has a pretty strong computer science program. It has a pretty strong robotics program, engineering program. So a lot of companies come here and basically want to recruit directly from there. Orlando also is a great place when it comes to logistic and transportation. The biggest thing and biggest name that stands out when it comes to that is the Amazon Fulfillment Center is right here, right by the airport, and it is pretty amazing living by this place. Mostly because I can get, you know, almost same-day delivery to my house for almost anything I want, and there's almost nothing I need the same day, but it's just nice to have that ability to get it between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. So that's kind of another little bonus perk you can add in there. But I mean, also the bigger thing is just jobs. I mean, Amazon is a major employer here. I mean, you can, if you're driving through a neighborhood, it's hard to not run into one of these big Amazon delivery trucks, vans that are dropping off some of these same-day deliveries deliveries. We can talk all day long about how diverse Orlando is when it comes to its employment opportunities. But I just love the numbers that I get to read about. Orlando, we've gone as low as around recently as 2.3%. That's pretty darn low, especially considering that the national average is somewhere around about 3.5 to 3.4%. So again, it just kind of shows you how strong employment is here in Orlando. Now, another pro of Orlando is how much it's grown. Our population has grown so much and become more and more diverse. We have people from all over the world moving here to Orlando, and it's awesome because it adds a lot more when it comes to its diversity. It's just becoming a much more diverse town. It's not that it wasn't before, but typically before, when it came to diversity, it was just mostly the very large Hispanic population that we have here in Central Florida. Now that side of it, yeah, it's very diverse. You have Cubans, you have Puerto Ricans, you have Venezuelans, you have Colombians. So again, you have a lot of, very strong diverse presence when it comes to Latin America, and which, by the way, you've definitely seen the food. But now you're getting to, you're starting to see people from just different parts of the world, and it's very nice because you get a chance to enjoy and learn about these different cultures. And my kids themselves, my kids are making friends from people from all over the world. They get to learn things about their culture, and it's kind of nice because they become more well-rounded human beings when they get to learn about how other people live their lives. So I think that's a major pro, at least for me. Might not be for everyone, but I definitely love how much Orlando has become much more diverse over the last few years. On top of that, with a growing population, and you're gonna see it, again, it's something that you will drive through here and you will see with your eyes, the infrastructure is improving so much. They're constantly expanding roads, adding more cell lines, adding more power lines, because Orlando just, again, the population keeps growing, so we need to accommodate all these people that live in this town now. We need more living spaces. We need the ability to get from one place to another. So again, Orlando is definitely moving when it comes to trying to fulfill these needs that we have here. Along with that, a lot of new home builders have noticed the need and the lack of supply when it comes to homes in Orlando. So, if you're moving here, odds are, it might be a little tough to get a home that is a well-established area, but there are plenty new construction homes, new builders that are doing all kinds of things to bring people in and attract them to the area, whether it's offering incentives for the homes, or simply just by, making sure that everything's well designed and they're building, for example, I live in a new area, and just minutes from me, they're already building a Publix, which is one of our major grocery stores here, which is pretty awesome. It's just the fact that they're trying really hard to make these new areas be very livable, be very convenient. So again, it just kind of goes back to the fact that Orlando is growing so much. And I do love that aspect about it, the newness of everything that's being built around. Some people might not love that, everything new all the time. Some people like a lot more character. There's plenty of areas in Orlando or Central Florida that have all that character too. But if you're into kind of like the newer side of things like I am, then it's gonna feel kind of nice being able to drive through these areas that are very well maintained, really new, really modern. Now, another major pro of Orlando is the weather. There's no way we cannot talk about the weather. It is amazing here, especially when you talk about between, I wanna say late October, maybe early November, all the way through March. You're looking at weather averages from like 72 to 92 degrees. It is beautiful to be outside. A lot of people say that, hey, Florida is really hot, it's really humid, it's really muggy. And I like to say, hey, have you lived here? Do you really know what it's like to live here? Because the truth is, between those months, between November and March, it's very nice to be outside. And yeah, it does get hot here. It's something that's gonna happen when you are in a subtropical climate. But for the most part, it's something that is fairly tolerable still, especially, in the afternoons after 4 o'clock. It gets really nice to take a stroll, to enjoy some of those theme parks I talked about earlier, to go out and do some of that camping. The weather definitely is very nice here. At the coldest, and depending on where you've lived in the world, like I said, I lived in Germany, I lived in Washington, D.C. I remember how cold things would get. I remember the wind chill. It could be like maybe 20 degrees, but when the wind hits, guess what? It's freezing. Very uncomfortable. I'll never forget waiting for the bus in the mornings, which it was the worst. And me personally, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of snow. I'm not like, I don't hate it, but I any day would rather be, you know, the hottest of hot in Florida than having to deal with the coldest of cold of anywhere else. And here in Florida, I mean, if you're trying to get away from the cold, the lowest it gets, I want to say, is around 30 degrees. Maybe there's some record lows below that, but honestly, it's just very rare. And we enjoy when it gets cold. We enjoy those cold snaps. We feel like it's kind of like a nice little change to the routine. We, you know, we get out of like storage, from storage, we take out our jackets, our sweaters, and we get to wear them outside, get to dress a little bit different. So it's kind of fun for us when it drops that low. At the hottest point, I mean, you're looking at maybe the mid to upper 90s. I mean, I'm sure you can find people posting online, you know, from their cars saying like, oh, it's 110 degrees, 114 degrees. Well, yeah, I mean, if your car's been parked out all day in the hot sun, of course it's gonna say that. But in all reality, I mean, like, we're really just looking at maybe 100 degrees at most at the hottest point of the day. And for that, I mean, the hottest it gets, it's just really up to the 90 degrees. I mean, I've seen a couple times, you know, reported 100 degrees, but I mean, obviously you're not really going outside during those times anyway. And if you are, I mean, you're probably doing it more to go to like the pool or to the beach, something like that. But again, even outside of November to March, I mean, you could still enjoy a nice walk through a park in the afternoon. The weather is still fairly temperate, still fairly nice. But for the most part, again, it is something that it is very enjoyable. And the weather here is perfect for, you know, water park activities, beach. And again, I've already talked about the fact that, hey, there's plenty of water parks here for you to enjoy. And again, the beach is not too far of a drive away. I mean, tops 2 hours to get to the beach. So, you know, again, this weather definitely lends itself to that. So for the most part, that is, at least for now, everything for the pros. I'm going to jump right into the cons now. But if you still have any questions, I mean, I get calls, texts, emails from people moving into the area all the time. Love helping them out, love being able to answer all the questions I can. I know everyone's situation is a little bit different, so feel free to email me, call or text. My information is down below in the description. If you're moving to Orlando, I've got your back. I definitely can help you out. Now let's go ahead and jump right into our first con. So I did mention the fact that weather is one of the major pros. I mean, again, the weather is definitely mostly for a lot of the year, at least half of the year, very tolerable. You can be outside easily. But I also mentioned the fact that it does get hot here. It can get up to, like I said, I've seen reported, you know, up to 100 degrees. Now for the most part, you know, I don't go out during this time. The hottest of the hot time of the year is somewhere between mid-July to around September. And the hottest point of the day, I have to say, is around maybe 2 or 3 o'clock. But for the most part, again, you're not really going outside during that time. And I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, heat exhaustion is a real thing. You can get dehydration. I mean, you can get dehydrated easily. And at worst, I mean, the worst of the worst, I mean, potentially could be, you know, you could have a heat stroke. So again, unless you are out doing some pool activities, I would avoid being outside in the summer time frame, you know, in the early afternoon. But again, you know, it's one of those things, it does limit what you can do here in Florida during the summer around that time. I mean, the only thing I would say or recommend is going to the pool, going to the beach maybe. You really kind of want to try to stay indoors. And for the most part, we've adapted here. We have a lot of indoor activities that you can do. But again, it does get hot here in Florida. And to add insult to injury, I mean, we also had the humidity. So however hot they're reporting, however hot they're saying it is, it's gonna feel a lot hotter when it's humid. And not only that, but that humidity, when it starts clearing in the afternoon, leads to a lot of thunderstorms. And let me tell you, people who live in Florida take thunderstorms for granted. I mean, we hear them and we see them rolling through all the time. I mean, I've had thunderstorms that when you know, lightning hits, I mean, I feel the ground shake. And here's the thing, you know, some Floridians, they, like I said, they take it for granted. Not too long ago, I mean, a couple months ago, you know, there was a reporting of someone getting struck by lightning. They were out when they weren't supposed to be. It wasn't raining, but I mean, there were lightning strikes. And schools, I mean, they have a very strict policy that they follow, the 30-30 rule. That means that basically they're not going to allow students released from the school, you know, unless 30 minutes has passed since the last time they heard thunder. It has to clear. And you know, a lot of pools, they have the same rules. You know, if you go to Disney, they shut down the roller coasters. If you're at one of the resorts, they take everyone out of the pool and they won't let anyone in. And it seems silly, and a lot of people get frustrated about these kind of things, but it's for good reason. Again, we had someone reported a fatality because of a lightning strike. In general, I mean, it's just best to just follow the rules, follow good practices, stay indoors. Even when you get used to it and are used to hearing the thunder, seeing the lightning, it's not something that you should take for granted. And obviously, this is obviously a major con. Aside from the fact that it's dangerous, it's also a con because, you know, it just kind of delays your whole day if you're picking up your kids from school. And then it also kind of limits outdoor activities. I can't tell you how many times I've been invited to a birthday party where I take my kids, and you can see the thunderstorm coming. You can see the rain coming visibly, and it's intense, and you're just like, hey guys, so what are we doing? I can see that the thunderstorm is coming. Is there any way we could kind of wrap the birthday up? Maybe we can sing a little bit sooner. And I mean, I'm always one to be prepared. I have ponchos in my car all the time. I have umbrellas in my car all the time. I'm always prepared for the rain. When it comes to thunder and lightning, I don't mess around. I get in the car quick and we head home or head somewhere where we can be inside. Now, another major con of living here in Florida, especially here in Orlando, is just the bugs. There are a ton of bugs. In fact, one of the jokes I had with my father-in-law the other day, he lives in Ireland, which hey, has nice weather over there, have their own kind of nice weather over there. But one of the neat things about over there is that they don't really have to deal with all these pests. We do. Yeah, we have tons of red ants. I mean, I just hate walking outside and suddenly I'm getting bit a lot by them, you know. There are many spiders, you know, there are fruit flies, there are your regular house flies, and then you also have roaches. So you definitely want to get your pest control in order. It's definitely not something that I would recommend skipping over or glossing over. Definitely make sure that you get some kind of help, whether it's you yourself that are taking care of it or it's a company, because it is going to, you know, no pun intended, it's going to bug you a lot. Now, the big ones are gonna be mosquitoes and love bugs. First thing, let's talk about the mosquitoes, because I feel like most people know what they are and what they do. And yeah, they're really annoying. I don't know why, they must love me, but I cannot be outside in the afternoon because I'm gonna get bit like crazy when it comes to those mosquitoes. They're gonna drive me nuts. I can't spend too much time out there. Even when I try, you know, I can put on all kinds of off spray. It's not enough for me. That's just my personal experience. Maybe it might be different for you or for other people, but at least when it comes to mosquitoes, it's another one of those things that just limits what you can do outside. It's mostly during the hot, humid time frame, so it's not all year long, and it's not even, doesn't even affect everyone the same way, but it's just one of those things that can become very annoying when you're trying to enjoy some of the outdoor Florida living. Now, this next one is fairly unique. I don't know that it's something that's found outside of Florida, but it's love bugs. I totally hate love bugs. For most of the year, most Floridians would forget all about them. You don't remember them, you don't even worry about them at all until we get to around that April to June timeframe, and sometimes also August to October, we get hit pretty bad with them. And there's just these small bugs that, you know, sometimes it's two of them connected to each other. Sometimes it could be one by itself, and they come in these massive swarms. They're not really dangerous. They're not really like, they're not biting you or anything like that. But they're really annoying because of the sheer amount that exists, and really kind of, you know, for lack of better words, how dumb they are. They will land on you, they will like fly right in front of your face, you'll walk right into them. I mean, you might even get one in your mouth. I mean, just because they will not move out of the way, they will not flee. So again, they're just all over the place, and it's just kind of annoying to have them all over you all the time. I mean, I've had moments where I'm outside, I'm doing some yard work, and they're just all over my back and my body, and I come inside and I have to shake them off. Super annoying, kind of gross. Something that just really, again, it's just kind of unique to where we live. We don't deal with it all the time, but it's fairly annoying. One of the other big things I have to do is I have to pull out my leaf blower or get a broom and sweep them from my front porch, because there are hundreds of them all over my porch dead. Super gross, again, super nasty. It's one of those, again, it's a kind of a really annoying, unique con of the area, but it is, again, very annoying. And you wouldn't really think about it unless you live here. In fact, even when you live here, you don't think about it most of the year. The other thing that it impacts is like your car. So like you're driving through Florida and the front of your car will be caked in these love bugs. And so one of the big things that has come out of that is having all these car washes. If you get love bugs on your car, don't let more than a couple days pass by without you cleaning your car. They will mess your car up. They will mess your paint up. That's why we have, again, so many car washes here, because they're, I mean, not necessarily taking advantage, but they're providing a solution for this problem. So again, it's just kind of one of those things that you have to deal with if you live here. Now, I mentioned earlier how, there's a lot of growth in Orlando, a lot of construction, a lot of new everywhere. So that, while it's a pro because of all the things that you get, it's also kind of a con because of how we get it. So with all the construction that's going on all the time, I mean, for example, we have lots of trucks on the road all the time. They're not always the best drivers, but they're driving these massive trucks that are very dangerous. Not only that, but they're sometimes full with dirt or rocks. So I personally try not to drive near them, because it's a great way to have a cracked windshield. So yes, it can be very dangerous. I would really steer clear of them as much as possible. But that's just one side of it. We also have, road closures. They don't close off roads completely. It's very rare that they do that. But one thing that you might end up seeing is, for example, on a major, roadway, a 3-lane roadway, they might close 1 or 2 lanes. And guess what? That's gonna back up traffic and add 40, 50 minutes to your commute. They do try to let the public know. They try to put the word out there, but it's not something that people necessarily always are putting on their calendars. If you end up living here, I'd recommend, especially if you're commuting a lot, pay close attention to some of these road signs that are telling you, hey, there's gonna be road closures and delays on this road. Please make your accommodations for that. And you wanna make sure that you do, because again, it could really put you behind. Recommend leaving an extra 30, 40 minutes early to make sure that you can get to work on time. It's just another one of those things that you kind of have to deal with when you're living in a growing area. Now, along with that, because you're kind of living in this constant construction zone with all these noises, another big nuisance, another annoying thing that you'll notice living here is nailing your tires. I have to get my tire repaired at least once a year, either repaired or replaced, which is, again, super annoying. You don't want to drive too long with a nail in your tire, because that could be very hazardous. I mean, driving through here on the side of the road, you're gonna see them. You're gonna see, bits, pieces, chunks of tires left over. Some of them sometimes because people just kind of kept filling their tires with air and didn't bother repairing it, or it could simply be the fact that it just blew out because even though they just got a nail in the tire, I mean, it's still it's compromising the tire. So I mean, it sounds maybe a little small, maybe a little silly to call that a con or complain about it, but I mean, it's gonna be something that you're going to notice living here. Now, another con that we have, especially during the peak travel seasons, is the tourist crowds and traffic. So, I mean, it's hard not to notice it, and you're living in one of the entertainment capitals of the world, with all those great parks we talked about earlier. Yeah, everyone from all over the world, all over the United States, all over Florida, they want to come in and visit. So during the high travel season, you're going to notice there's going to be a lot more cars on the road, switching 3 or 4 lanes, because our exits sometimes are a little bit weird. Some of them are kind of new, so the GPS doesn't realize that they're there until it's too late. So yeah, I mean, that's something that we kind of have to kind of also deal with here, is just having a lot more people from out of town on the road. But on top of that, having all the tourists here, it makes the lines at the parks kind of crazy, which is kind of expected. It's not a time that I personally would go to the parks. However, you'll also notice that there'll be some increase in prices, whether it's food food, maybe just going to a tourist attraction nearby. I know that Disney does raise its prices on the theme park tickets during that time frame, which is why you get an annual pass if you live here. Gas prices might go up. Along with that, it's gonna be a lot harder to get seating at restaurants. The wait lines will be much longer. The lines in any fast food place is gonna be longer. Shopping in general will get a lot tougher. So yeah, I mean, again, it's just another one of those things that you kind of have to learn either to deal with or steer clear of if you're living in Orlando during those high tourist seasons. Not to mention the fact that traffic around the airport also gets a lot tougher because everyone's flying in and out. Now here's another major con, which I kind of love talking about, which is gonna sound kind of weird, but it's hurricanes. Now I'm sure you're thinking, wait a minute, we talked about the weather, why didn't you bring this up before? That's because hurricanes are so unique, different, and special that you need to talk about them separately. Again, you can make a whole nother video series just on hurricanes. Now we're here in Central Florida, we're not like too vulnerable like coastal cities like Tampa, Miami, or Jacksonville. I mean, they fare well, but we're definitely a lot more insulated when it comes to hurricanes. However, they're still no fun at all. I mean, we haven't really had to like evacuate and leave Orlando. That's not something I've seen in my time living here. Over the last 5 years, the two hurricanes that stand in my mind are Irma and Ian. I mean, they were down trees, down power lines. I think at most I lost power for maybe a day at one point. So it wasn't too wild. I mean, I've heard of some tougher stories here in Central Florida. I know with Ian, we definitely had roads flooded for weeks. They were closed off completely. So we were doing detours and there were all kinds of crazy traffic when it came to Ian. Irma was a lot more intense. I mean, there was a lot more like down trees. So that took a while to clear. But the biggest thing I think that stands out to me when it comes to these hurricanes is one, I mean, they just disrupt life in general. They make it, so that, I mean, kids are out from school, you might be out from work, you might not be out from work, depends what like industry you work in. You might not have a reliable internet for a while, you might not have reliable cell service for a while. So, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing that, happens when we have these hurricanes. But the biggest, worst part of hurricanes is how unpredictable they are. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, they'll be talking about a tropical storm or hurricane out in the Caribbean, or it'll be in the Gulf, or it'll be in the Atlantic. You don't think about it too much because it's just a storm that's out there. I mean, depending who you are, you might watch it a little closely, and then suddenly out of nowhere, they're sounding all kinds of alarms that, hey, this hurricane's hitting in 3 days. It's definitely hitting here in Florida. So you need to go and get ready. And just like that, everyone is in a full panic and there's no more water at the grocery stores and all the canned food is gone. That's the kind of life that we sometimes live with our hurricane season. I mean, the best way to handle that is just be prepared ahead of time. They say, hurricane season begins, early in the summer. So they start saying, hey, make sure you have your batteries, make sure you have your water, make sure you have all the important essentials that you would need to deal with a hurricane. However, some people just simply don't have time or they forget, and the next thing you know, a hurricane's coming, everyone's running to the store. But in any case, if that hasn't deterred you from living here in Orlando, I definitely recommend watching this video next.